Coming up on Smart Tech today, Rosemary Orchard is here as Matthew Casanelli is traveling and seeing his family, which is really awesome. I'm happy for him, and I'm also happy for me because being joined by Rosemary Orchard is incredible. We talk about quite a bit of stuff. It is a news-laden show, starting with Amazon, including the Amazon Halo fitness service and some of the things that they're doing there. Amazon trying to improve upon the infamous Ring saga by making police requests public. A whole bunch about wearables and your heart and new studies about your heart in relation to wearables, plus a lot of conversation about some pretty cool new products and a cereal robot. You aren't going to want to miss it. Stay tuned for Smart Tech Today.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Command Line Heroes, a podcast that tells the epic true tales of developers, programmers, hackers, geeks, and open source rebels who are revolutionizing the technology landscape. Search for Command Line Heroes anywhere you listen to podcasts and download it today. Hello there, and welcome to Smart Tech Today, where we explain the exciting, dynamic, and sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am one of your hosts, Micah Sargent, and I am joined by a very special guest host today. It is the very awesome Rosemary Orchard. Welcome back to the show, Rosemary.
Well, thank you very much for having me back. I feel like I was just on here like a few weeks ago, and I'm back already. It's great. I love it.
It's because you're awesome, and we love having you around, and so do our listeners. We have a lot of news to cover today, so we are going to have a news-heavy show. And then, of course, at the end of the show, Rosemary and I will both share picks of the week. So those are products or apps or what have you that are IoT or smart home related that we are pumped about that we think you should check out. So it's a little bit like the App Cap segment on iOS Today. You may be familiar with that. But this is just a pick of the week of any kind. So let's kick things off with an interesting story. Amazon, of course, purchased the company Ring, which makes it's most well known for its video doorbells. These video doorbells were or are one of the most popular models that are out there, and Ring has over time been in a bit of an ongoing. It's ongoingly infamous for its relationship with police, given the exchange of information that exists there. So there was lots of conversation about sort of individual relationships that Ring had with police departments, giving those police departments the ability to request information related to investigations that they were doing, and then also giving police departments the opportunity to put out a request directly to individuals and say, hey, your video footage could help us in this investigation. Would you like to hand it over? There were, reasonably some conversations about that and concerns for privacy. And now Amazon has responded by making a decision to make things more transparent. And it's doing that by making it so that public safety agencies like police and fire departments, if they want to get information, if they want to get any material from these Ring users, then they would have to do so in a public way. So according to this Reuters article, it says public safety agencies such as police and fire departments now must request material from their communities through a new publicly viewable type of post on the Neighbors app. So before, again, you would get a private message directly to you, and then you could send the information that you wanted to. In this way, not only will law enforcement need to ask for it in a public way, but then also information shared would be shared in a more publicly viewable way. So it's just about transparency here. And I think that it's a good middle ground. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Rosemary, because is Ring in the UK as well? Does Amazon sell Ring devices there?
Yeah, so they do sell Ring devices over here. I have one. I actually have the peephole camera because I live in an apartment. And I could have put up a doorbell outside. I can put, my own hardware on my door, but I already had a peephole there, so why not just replace it with a smart one? But the Neighbors app does not exist here. It is exclusively US. Maybe it's in Canada as well now, but at the very least, if I look on the Ring website, then the Neighbors information, it says US only to me. So that side of things just doesn't exist here. But also, to be fair, the UK does have more cameras covering us than pretty much any other country in the world, which you would think would... Yeah. So
tell me more about that.
Out walking down the street, like somewhere public, then there's probably a camera watching you somewhere. And, it's something that might be controversial for some people and in some places. But over here, that's relatively normal to have those cameras. But Ring doesn't have this integration with the police. That said, we have fewer problems with the police here than you seem to over in the US, which I won't say our police are faultless or perfect. I very much doubt anybody is, but they seem to be doing a fairly good job. So I'm glad that this is going more public. I feel like crime is one of those things where education is an important part of it, and people knowing that their information is being used for part of this, I think is a good thing, especially when they can then choose to share or not share. And it just gives them an idea that maybe they've been involved in helping or not helping if they've chosen not to. And I think that can only be a good thing. But for me, it's very much one of those things where my doorbell shows delivery people coming to my door, and it doesn't show anything else because it doesn't have any other useful information on it. It might occasionally catch my neighbor or my neighbor's dog if the neighbor's dog runs downstairs and explores inside before my neighbor has a chance to open the door. But that's it. There's only 4 apartments in here, and, the others are upstairs. So, it wouldn't work for my camera, that's for sure. They wouldn't get any useful information out of me whatsoever. But it's interesting that they started by just, from my understanding, giving the information to the police without telling people. I'm pretty certain that thanks to, data regulation over here, that would not fly. So,
yeah, I was going to say that your data protections are pretty great. Now, it's one of those things where I think that the transparency point of view, or the transparency attempt, is what makes this a good move. Regardless of how you kind of align with this, whether you think that, it's a really good thing to do to hand over footage to police to help with an active investigation, which, depending on the active investigation, is a totally understandable thing, or you don't feel like it's a good thing to do, whether you're on one side or the other, the fact that it's being done transparently is good. So, this is one of those things where I think Amazon has found the step to take that can satisfy kind of all parties. It's a compromise, because I was going to say they could satisfy all parties, but not to the extent that some of them may, want this to be. But certainly it helps to keep things open and keep these organizations accountable, as individuals can choose to aid in investigations as they see fit with their property and their equipment and that. So, yeah, a really interesting story. And I am curious to see how Amazon continues to iterate and adjust, or not iterate and adjust, its handling with Ring, and especially with that Ring drone that'll be coming out soon that will patrol your home. That is a fascinating product that also has, certain implications. The good thing is it's inside your home, but Ring at this point is kind of, it's synonymous with a sort of nefarious surveillance in a way. And so given that, I think Amazon's really trying to rehabilitate Ring's image, and this is a first step that they're taking.
Yeah, I mean, they're taking this first step, but as our next news item shows us, they might not be doing enough here. They're rolling something out and not telling us about it. Uh-oh, what's happening over at Ring?
Exactly, yeah. So let's continue to talk about Amazon, but this one's a little bit different. This has to do with a new technology that Amazon has been slowly but surely working into its different smart home products, particularly its smart speakers, that attempt to aid in connectivity that goes farther than just within your home. It's called Amazon Sidewalk, and it is kind of a mesh network that Amazon is working on that would let Amazon's own devices securely make use of the different Amazon devices that also have Sidewalk that are out there. So let's take all of that and kind of put it into terms that are a little bit easier to understand. So I have an Echo in my office. I've got some Echoes throughout the house. And let's say they have Amazon Sidewalk. Then I have it turned on. It's ready. It's good to go. Then someone who has an Amazon product that supports Amazon Sidewalk who is outside, they would be able to tap into, and Amazon says securely, they put out a white paper on this if you're curious about the security implications. They would be able to tap into the internet connectivity that my Amazon devices have in my home to help with that connection of that device. So one example that folks gave that I think is a really good one is, think about in my case, so I live in a townhome and it's part of a huge complex of apartments and townhomes. And there are some apartments that are near the mailboxes where we go to get our mail. And one of kind of ongoing wish that people who have anything to do with Internet of Things stuff want is a mailbox sensor, a thing that says, oh, your mailbox has been opened, so mail has been put into it, so you can go and check your mail. And the problem tends to be that it is too far away, so you can't get a good connection. And because of that, it can also be super power hungry. And depending on the type of mailbox that you have, maybe the signal can't get out when it needs to. It would need to be open for a longer period of time rather than a shorter period of time if something was nearby, et cetera, et cetera. And so if there were apartments around the mailbox area that have the Echo devices or other Amazon devices that have Sidewalk built into them, then the mailbox sensor that I have in my mailbox that also supports Amazon Sidewalk could use the connectivity from that nearby Echo, and then I would get that information that it was, that the mailbox had opened. So it's important to understand that what this means, as Amazon kind of puts it, it's like nearby devices can sip off of your internet connection as needed, if needed. So it's not as if, they'll ever be able to completely dominate the bandwidth on your network. It's just being able to take a little bit. It's also kind of like here in the United States, and particularly here in California, one of the big internet service providers is Comcast, and they go by Xfinity for its consumer version. And if you use the very bad Xfinity gateway dealie that they provide, which I never recommend, but it's got the Wi-Fi, it's got the Ethernet, and it's a router and it's a modem. If you use that, then Comcast has it set up such that anybody who is also an Xfinity account holder can make use of that modem / router with their own account. So by doing that, kind of all throughout wherever people are Xfinity subscribers who use those boxes, anybody who's an Xfinity subscriber can get internet anywhere they are, which in theory is a good idea. But at the same time, the security implications and all the stuff that goes into that are, and bandwidth usage and all of that kind of stuff is something to kind of keep in mind. And so Amazon does have some limits on this, but it's important to know. And the reason why we're talking about it now is that Amazon said, I think it was on Tuesday, you've got 1 week if you want to opt out of this feature. And so I figured we could go together and find where this feature exists in the Amazon Alexa app. So I'm going to launch the Alexa app on my phone. And then at the bottom of the screen in the right-hand corner, there is a More button. I will press that. Then there is a Settings button. I will press that. And then I want to find, I got to remember where it is. Is it device discovery? No, account settings. There we go. So then we go again, more, we go settings, then we go account settings. And then within here, you've got recognized voices, guest connect, voice purchasing, Amazon Sidewalk, and workouts. I'll tap on Amazon Sidewalk, and then I can turn this off. So in it, there's a little note. It says Amazon Sidewalk is a shared network that helps devices work better. Sidewalk can help your compatible devices automatically connect or reconnect to your router. It can also extend the coverage for Sidewalk-enabled devices such as Ring smart lights and pet and object trackers, so they can stay connected and continue to work over longer distances. Sidewalk uses a small portion of your internet bandwidth to provide these services to you and your neighbors. This setting will apply to all of your supported Echo and Ring devices that are linked to your Amazon account, and you can update these settings at any time. Of course, it's only available in select countries. Amazon does provide a little link to let you tap and then pop in and read a little bit more. But it is, I have mine disabled right now, but I'm going to turn it on for a second because there's a little option underneath that says community finding. And so this is a new feature that is part of Amazon Sidewalk. It says you can help your neighbors find pets and important items connected to Sidewalk by sharing the approximate location of this device and other Sidewalk bridges you own. This setting will apply to all of your supported Echo and Ring devices that are linked to your Amazon account. You can update these settings at any time. Neighbors with Sidewalk-enabled devices will only see an approximate location, such as a nearby street intersection. So the idea here is that if these devices opt into Amazon Sidewalk, then the network of Amazon devices that are out there will be able to help the person find what they're looking for by providing the nearby intersection of where you are. Because by that point, if you can get to the nearby intersection, maybe the Bluetooth connectivity will be a little bit better. So obvious privacy implications and concerns there, but Amazon, as I said, does have a lot of white papers, or does have a couple of white papers about this. Now, I'm curious for you, Rosemary, again, now talking about sort of internet service providers, if like we have with Xfinity, if there's something like that in the UK where anybody can kind of sap off of other people's internet connections, or if that remains private. And then I'm just curious kind of about your take on Amazon Sidewalk, if this is something you would enable on your devices or something you would keep disabled.
Well, I can't enable Sidewalk on my devices. It's not available in the UK. So privacy, for me, that option's just off the table, which is, probably for the best. But over here, one of the main internet providers is BT, and they do have a very similar system, which actually ties into a global system, which has partnerships with FON and Xfinity. So you can use if you are part of if they are your ISP, then they give you an account and you can use that information to sign in. And it's a separate Wi-Fi network that's provided by that modem. But the modem is free over here. It's I guess, included in the price, but you don't get an option not to have it. And that's because of the way the modem routers here are set up. You can't just buy your own and plug it in. There's encryption and authentication and stuff involved. So it's a bit more complicated to just DIY. So mine's in bridge mode and I have ears hanging off the back. Fortunately, the ears are not part of the Sidewalk program. Yeah, it's one of those things. On the one hand, I think, it's a nice thing to be able to offer, especially for things like trackers, like the tile trackers. You're doing a good thing if you let other people, find their devices more easily. But at the same time, it definitely has privacy implications. And I have a feeling we're not really going to know what they are for a good few years. I'm also not super happy that this is opt-out rather than opt-in. I feel like they would do a better job throwing up a pop-up, sending you a push notification or an email or something telling you, that you can turn it on, and here are all the advantages that if you turn it on, and here's a single button to turn it on, encouraging people to do so, but not forcing people in and making them opt out, because that makes people feel like it's a bait and switch kind of, why did you just opt me into this? They already had issues where the Neighbors app accidentally exposed geocoordinates of specific Ring users. That was, a while ago. But, there have been issues with this stuff before. And it's kind of worrying, perhaps, that this is just being turned on without people really knowing what it is, because at the end of the day, it's basically a surveillance network. Your home network goes down and your cameras now hop onto your neighbor's Wi-Fi to do that. Now, if somebody's cut your internet connection for whatever reason, then that could be a good thing. But at the same time, do you want your cameras hopping onto your neighbor's network? Do you want your network supporting your neighbor's cameras? Especially people do things like change the Wi-Fi network and password, and they don't realize what devices are connected to it, and it takes them forever to find out. And if their cameras just keep working, they won't know it's on the wrong network, will they? So I think, this feature definitely has good side effects, but it also has bad side effects, and it's going to be a while before both we see what they are and also before Amazon manages to fine-tune the feature to really make it better. Though I understand, of course, sometimes you just have to start with something.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see, because again, it's just about to launch. It'll be interesting to see if it does make an impact on my network. I'm going to turn it on for the sake, because if you don't enable it, then you don't get to take advantage of it with everybody else. So I want to see if it does have any effect on the cameras, because I also have the peephole camera that you mentioned before for the same reason. And I'm curious how it will be impacted, because when you turn it on, not only it's not just that at that point, then Amazon Sidewalk is an option. It uses Amazon Sidewalk by default. So that means that the Ring devices that you have in your home and the other devices like the Echo devices will use Amazon Sidewalk as their connection point. It's almost like turning one of your Ring devices into a hub that connects one of your Amazon devices into a hub that connects all of the other ones via Amazon Sidewalk. And then if it loses connection using Sidewalk, it'll just hop back to your router as Wi-Fi alone. So it's a really interesting thing. And like I said, I want to see how it works and what the impact is. But I am not turning on the community location feature. For me, that even with, because I mentioned earlier, there are white papers out for both of these features. Even with the security that's in place and, the what is it called? There's a certain type of anonymized data, and I can't think of now what it's called, differential privacy stuff. The location part is not of interest to me, but the rest of it is. And I want to see how it works. All righty. Let us take a quick break before we come back with more news. We ended up talking quite a bit about these first two stories here because there was a lot to talk about, frankly. But I'm excited to tell you about our first sponsor today because it is the awesome, the incredible Command Line Heroes. That's right, folks. Command Line Heroes. is a podcast that shares with you the epic true tales of developers, programmers, hackers, geeks, and open source rebels. It is a fantastic way to learn about those who have and still are revolutionizing the technology landscape. Oh, and by the way, Season 7 is here now. Season 7 of Command Line Heroes explores a pivotal year. The year is 1995. It was the start of the dot-com boom, but a lot of things had to come together for the internet to succeed. So it's time for you to meet the internet class of 95. Oh, man. So first of all, if you're watching, you got to check out this website. They make the most beautiful graphics for every season of Command Line Heroes, all themed according to whatever the season is. So they've got the Rolodex, but it's all done up in like the website. And there are these beautifully written summaries of each episode. And then the artwork is all done in sort of 95 style online and UI design. And I know I said design twice, but it's just, I'm blown away. I think it's so incredible each season how they come with this new artwork that's just wow. Let's talk about some of the episodes that you can check out. One of them, long before you could hop on GoDaddy or any of those other places to grab a domain name, you had to talk to a woman who was in charge of this whole thing. This woman, her name is Elizabeth Jake Feinler. And she was the keeper of all domains. What a title. Episode 1 of the season features a conversation with Elizabeth Jake Feinler, who is now in her 90s, about how she managed the internet and how her team needed to create the DNS, domain name system. Wow. Absolutely worth a listen. Then let's talk about another one. Web design as a career and as kind of an understanding. It took a while to become something that we all kind of recognize, but it got a huge boost in 95 when the Batman Forever website launched. And that was used to promote the movie, but it showed people what was actually possible to create on the web. This specific episode features pioneers like Jeffrey Zeldman, the godfather of web design, who recount the shift that forever changed the face of the web. And then there was the year 1995, of course, was the year that ISPs became the dominant gateway to the information superhighway. But the question is, how did we go from ARPANET all the way to ISPs being the way that we connected to the internet? Well, none of it would have happened without a team of intrepid engineers at the University of Michigan and a network they built called the NSFNet. There's so much to learn. If you're a person who just likes learning new things, if you crave factoids, you've got 7 seasons worth of incredible stuff to listen to. Just Nick in the Discord just said, catching up on Command Line Heroes after the show. I listened to it way back in season 1 when it first came out. So good. I've had some other listeners write in to talk about how they and their kids listened to some of the episodes and just adored it. It was kind of like, oh, we get to sit down for our little Command Line Heroes listen and find out some new information. So you got to go check it out. This was the moment when the internet went from academic curiosity to global phenomenon. Command Line Heroes is hosted by developer and podcaster Saranyat Barak. I have enjoyed every moment of it. It's every season. I'm like, okay, what's this season's topic going to be about? Check out all of the incredible stories from season 7 today. Search for Command Line Heroes anywhere you listen to podcasts. That's Command Line Heroes. Download it today. And of course, our thanks to Command Line Heroes for sponsoring this episode of Smart Tech Today. We thank you for your support. All right, let us move on to the next topic here. We're still on the Amazon train, choo-choo, but this one is about Amazon Halo. So what's fascinating is, for anybody who doesn't remember, Amazon Halo was originally this wearable device that you would wear on your wrist, and it would listen to you and sort of give you information about your tone of voice using AI detection. And then it would, detect your movement throughout the week and give you some information there. But Amazon has quickly turned Amazon Halo into an entire fitness service. So along with a wearable device, it's also offering some AI smarts, including some new AI smarts, where it will use your smartphone's camera and the cloud, Amazon's server technology, to create a scan of your movement health. So you take a 5 to 10 minute session, and you are going to mold yourself into different poses. And then it's going to take these scans of you. And then after that, it will use that to create a customized workout routine to improve your stability, your mobility, and your posture. So it can help you. It can go, oh man, you really need to be sitting up a little bit more there, Micah. Although I do pretty well with posture. I get a lot of compliments on my posture, but I could use some help in some other categories. So yeah, I think this is really interesting. The device will tell you, if we can show the screenshot here, they have an example, and it says that the person's shoulder mobility is at about 32%. Stability is at about 51%. Their trunk stability was good at 78, hip mobility at 96, but lower mobility was kind of low. And then it says, based on those results, we're going to give you a personal program and recommendations to focus on your hips and trunk. And then, 3 weeks, 3+ days a week, these are the different exercises that you're going to do. So I don't know about you, Rosemary, but I love the idea of democratizing the sort of workout and fitness area. I think right now, you have to. A lot of people can't afford to pay a personal trainer or a physical therapist to give them, exactly the personal points that they should take advantage of and the things that they need to do. And by all means, if you can afford it or if you need to afford it, you should absolutely take that route. But opening this up a little bit and giving more people the chance to kind of understand a little bit more about their bodies, I will always be an advocate for giving people tools to better understand, as I always say, these ambulatory flesh sacks we walk around in, to know more about ourselves, our shells, and use that to improve upon our shells, I think is fantastic. I think this is really cool.
Yeah, no, I like this as well, especially since Google bought Fitbit. I believe the European ruling was that they weren't allowed to just merge everything straight off. So Fitbit still has to remain separate to Google. But, it's good to have a little bit more competition in this kind of space. I have my Apple Watch here. I love it. It's a great device. But, an Apple Watch is a pretty pricey fitness band. This is, at the moment, I believe they're doing a trial for people where if they get invited, it's $65 and 6 months of the service is free. And then when it launches, it's $100 and $4 a month. That's a lot more affordable than an Apple Watch. And if you don't have an iPhone, then, you certainly are not going to be buying an Apple Watch. It's going to be pretty much useless to you. I'm also really intrigued that it seems to be working with posture as well, because posture is something I have struggled with before. And I ended up buying one of these devices. It's an Upright Go. Where you just pop it out of the case and you stick it on your back. And when you lean too far forward, it will then vibrate and tell you if you're in training mode, or it can also just do tracking mode. And I've actually been wearing this most of the day at my desk, which is why I'm not wearing it now, because it needs charging. But it's really nice to have more options for things like this. And of course, this is going to suggest exercises and so on that would improve it. But I find it interesting that they're both doing the personal service, or somewhat personal service, but they are also not seeking FDA approval, including, a lot of other bands out there do have this FDA clearance, but they don't seem to have gone with that. And I'm wondering if that's because they're planning on submitting some papers. That was mentioned in a couple of the articles I read, that they were in the middle of doing some further studies. But I'm also intrigued by the voice tone specifically. I think the way that we speak to our devices sometimes can tell it a lot more about us than these devices necessarily are paying attention to. I know, yesterday evening, I was very sleepy in bed. I remembered I'd hooked up a new light here in my office. I hadn't added it to my nighttime automation to turn everything off. So I really sleepily told my HomePod to please turn off the light. And it responded with a very chirpy, "I've turned off the lights in your office" at full volume. It's like, come on. I just whispered, "I'm sleepy. It's dark. You know this. I've pressed the button. My Apple Watch is in sleep mode. Like, you could use this data." And it's not. So I think that it's interesting, and that this is probably going to be something that hopefully we're going to see, lights a fire under the competitors as well. And there will be more intense competition for an even better product.
Yep. I agree. I was just tuning in or reading a little bit more about the Halo band and what the conversation is around the data privacy, and The Verge has a great piece on in its initial review of the Halo band. And something that I didn't know that I think is important to know is that the voice recordings were the thing that kind of had people in tech early on being a little bit the way that we can get sometimes snarky and all of that kind of thing about the voice recordings and the tone of voice recordings. And so something that's worth noting is that voice recordings, Amazon tells The Verge, voice recordings are analyzed locally on the person's smartphone and then are deleted. Speech samples are processed locally and never sent to the cloud, Amazon says, adding that tone data will not be used for training purposes. So that voice stuff is actually less used than the voice stuff that you use with the Amazon Echo. That information could be sent off it is sent off to the servers for sure, but sometimes, depending on the settings that you have, will be sent off to real people to help improve upon Amazon's ALEXA service. So it's interesting that Amazon with this said, look, we're going to start this out very carefully. And then the body scans are briefly uploaded to Amazon's servers and then deleted within 12 hours. Scan images are never shared to other apps unless you explicitly export an image. So yeah, that's interesting. That's good. Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that you want to see. You want to see these clear examples of a company that's going to be scooping up a lot of health data, doing so responsibly and with privacy and security in mind. So that was a good move by them.
Yeah, specifically talking about the body scanner, I found it really interesting. One of the articles I was reading says they're not going to allow. So the Halo band is available for anybody 13 or older, but the body scan feature is only allowed for people who are 18 plus. And there's a slider that can show you, how you look with different levels of body fat, but it will not let you slide down far enough to a dangerously low level of body fat.
Nice.
Which I think is incredibly useful. I mean, there are people with eating disorders. There are people who just have, an unhealthy relationship with food and their body weight. They, this is not a tool for those people to do that. If you have, something like that, or, somebody like that who's looking at getting one of these, they should be talking to a medical professional to make sure that they're getting, all of the nutrients that their body needs. This is, not going to be, the solution for that, but it is going to be quite useful for those people who maybe over lockdown over the last year and a half or so have, put on a few extra pounds and would like to try to lose that weight in a safe manner with, regular exercise and a little bit of diet moderation. So I'm looking forward to, seeing how this links in with everything. And I'm really glad that they are not suggesting that you do things like scan yourself more than every 2 weeks. That's all they want. So there's not going to be, get on the scales every day, which I know some diet plans do.
Yes. That is actually a really good point. And I didn't know that about the sliders. So that's good. All right. Let us move on to talk about another wearable that is working on some steps, or working on some new features for the device. Fitbit is working on snoring and noise detection and we'll be able to give you like a good BuzzFeed quiz, your sleep animal. There's several apps that do the your sleep animal thing, where they'll kind of tell you if you're an early bird or a night owl, and where you fall in and kind of what that means for you. But with this is one of those times where the journalists who are fairly techie have dug into the next version of the next version of an app, or the current version of an app, to kind of get a picture of what's going to be coming soon. And so with this, Fitbit is apparently working on snore and noise detection. So during sleep, the microphone on your Fitbit device can monitor noise, including snores from you or someone next to you throughout the night. It's going to look for sound intensity to determine the baseline noise level, snoring events, and it says when our algorithm detects an event that's louder than the baseline noise level, it performs a calculation to decide if it's snoring or something else. If the noise level in your room is louder than the snoring, this feature may not be able to pick up the snoring. So that's kind of a warning that if you sleep with a fan on or something like that, and you're right next to the fan, then you might not be able to pick up your snoring. So you really do want a quieter room. The feature can detect snores from you or someone next to you. So you do need to make sure it says none to mild means you were snoring far less than 10% of the total time you're asleep. Moderate means you were snoring 10 to 40% of the total time you're asleep. And frequent means you were snoring for greater than 40%. And then it'll also provide you with some noise, with a noise level chart to let you know. And then offer some recommendations depending on how you sleep. And we showed it a little bit. There are more than just the night owl and the early bird. There's the bear, the dolphin, the giraffe, the hummingbird, the kangaroo, and the tortoise. And depending on what you are, you're either a restless sleeper, a segmented sleeper, a shallow sleeper, a short sleeper, a slow to fall asleep sleeper, or a solid sleeper. So you want to be the tortoise, I think. Because that is the solid sleeper. The bear, I don't know why they chose the bear for the restless sleeper, because I feel like bears hibernate.
Yeah, they do.
So I feel like they sleep
not all
quite
bears
deeply.
Hibernate, actually. I don't think.
Okay. That might be why then. And then the dolphin being the segmented sleeper, where you kind of sleep in shifts almost. So yeah, you can learn your sleep animal. Interesting.
I want these animals as device wallpapers. That is my first take on this. They are incredibly cute.
They're really cute.
I may have to buy a Fitbit again just so that I can try and get these. Or maybe I know somebody at Fitbit. If somebody at Fitbit is watching, please send me nice high-res images so I can use these as my nighttime wallpapers, because they're so cute, especially the dolphin and the giraffe.
If you can download the Fitbit app, then maybe you can break into the APK like they did. And then get.
So you'd have to download the Google Play Store version for that, or the Android version specifically. That's where the APKs come from. I do have an Android phone though, so that shouldn't be impossible.
You'll have to let me know.
It's
if
not my
you
daily
crack
carry, but I do have a Nokia. But yeah, this is really interesting. I know snoring is a big deal for a lot of people. I know you've got a device that tracks your sleep, which is attached to your bed. I just use my Apple Watch, which seems to do a pretty good job. But I've also heard of people who ended up getting divorced because of snoring. So, you know, it can actually be a sign of a significant health issue like sleep apnea or something. So, you know, if you're snoring a lot, then it's worth getting that checked out. But some people just aren't aware that they snore. So it's, you know, this is going to be useful for them. And I like the fact that they do make recommendations for, hey, if you want to get good results from your Fitbit, make sure you charge it to at least 40% before going to bed, because it's pretty battery intensive. And don't play white noise or other ambient sounds during sleep. Well, that would not work for me. I've been listening to rain every night for the last couple of weeks to go to sleep. I love it. I tried not doing that the other day, and it just didn't work. I was just there lying in bed going, why am I not falling asleep here? So apparently I've trained myself to go to sleep with rain sounds. May or may not be a good thing. But yeah, no, this is really interesting. And, you know, it's amazing what these devices can tell us. And I think it would be really useful to get all of the information out of them that we can. And I know Fitbit's got a bunch of other, you know, useful features and stuff already. And they're devices are usually quite affordable. They frequently go on Amazon Prime sales. I've seen them many times, especially in the run up to Christmas. They were incredibly cheap, some of them. So this is really interesting.
Agreed. All right. Next is, so speaking of Android, Apple, in an exclusive conversation with CNET, has given some more information about AirTags. So we talked a little bit about Apple's AirTags, which are the tiny little pucks that have Bluetooth LE and an ultra wideband chip in them, which let you find your lost devices. So it's Apple's take on kind of the Tiles and those kinds of devices in the marketplace. And with it came the conversation surrounding privacy and security, that AirTags could be used to track people, and that there's the option to turn on. There's an option within it that if it becomes disconnected from if it's not around the person who owns it, if it's not around their own phone, after a certain period of time, it will start making a sound. So the idea there is that if someone, I don't know if Calliope was nefarious and put an Apple AirTag into their friend Constance's bag, and Constance walks away from Calliope and is away from Calliope for a long period of time, and Calliope's tracking Constance on their phone, then that is not good. And it took 24 hours or maybe even more originally for that device to start beeping, letting Constance know that Calliope was tracking them, because they could pull out the AirTag and go, "What in the world?" And then go, that Calliope. And so the problem there was that that could be a long period of time that someone has to be able to track somebody. But then there was also the conversation of, hey, with iOS devices, sure, if Calliope puts one of these AirTags into my bag and I'm walking along, because I have an iPhone, I'll get a notification saying, you have an AirTag with you that doesn't belong to you. Is that, do you want that there? Do you want that to be there? Is that a thing that you need, you want? And so you would get a notification early on. And people said, okay, that's all good if you are an iPhone user, but what if you're an Android user? You're not going to get that notification until the ringing starts happening. And so Apple said, you know what, that's right. And they have now said that they will be releasing an Android app that will let Android users be aware of the fact that an AirTag that doesn't belong to them is kind of on their person and is being, following them around essentially. So this was a good move by Apple. They're also going to be updating the window of time that it takes to make noise. Again, before it was, I think, longer than 24 hours. Now it will begin to play at a random time inside a window that lasts between 8 and 24 hours. So it could be a lot sooner. It could be a little bit later, but well within 1 day, so that the tracking is not going to take place for longer than 1 day. I don't know if random time is the right word here. It's hard to know, or if the word is sort of computationally determined time, because it was my understanding that the way that Apple was doing it originally was that it would use the information that it had stored about your most active locations as part of that information. And then doing that, it could help to determine when it should start making that noise. So that part I'm not sure of, but we'll see. I think that this is a good move in any case.
Yeah, it is. So we already saw that when you use an Android phone, I've got my my Nokia one here, to scan an AirTag. Unfortunately, I can't do it because I forgot the passcode. I need to open up my 1Password in a minute and double check that. It will pop up with the information for you and tell you, the AirTag information, the idea being to help you return the lost item. But, you know, clearly Apple are aware, and we're from the start, that, you know, these things can be used for purposes other than their intention of finding lost items. They did already specifically say, don't use this for kids or pets. Elevation Labs, of course, have now got a pet collar attachment for these. So, you know, people are always going to use stuff in ways it was not intended. But I'm pleased to see that they will be launching an Android app. Apple don't have many Android apps. Their most popular one, I believe, is the migration to iPhone one. But they do also have Apple Music for Android. So it's not their first foray into making an Android application. And I hope it's not their last. You know, there are all sorts of things like this. I would love to be able to track some of my friends who use Androids with the Find My network, and allowing them to install an app on their Android device would be pretty nice for that. And maybe this will sell some AirTags to Android users. We'll find out at some point.
Yeah, I'm curious if the app will also if the app will also let you use an Android device that has ultra wide technology as a to connect with it, or if it's exclusively just for detecting AirTags that are on your person or in your surrounding area. It'd be interesting. Next is a little bit about the Apple Watch. We were talking about wearables a little bit earlier. This one is about TELUS Health, which is the Canadian service. A Canadian service for health. And TELUS is going to offer 24/7 monitoring with the Apple Watch. And what this does is it lets you set up a 24/7 emergency monitoring service for folks who have Apple Watches that if you have a fall, you'll be able to get in touch with someone. So if you've ever seen one of the, and now I can't think of what it's called, but I remember the lady saying, I've fallen and I can't get up. And now I can't think of the name of it.
Like panic detections.
Button. Yeah. Exactly. You would wear it around your neck and you could then hit the button. So I know a lot of folks who've mentioned that they've purchased Apple Watches for their elderly family members who can wear them. And we know that they have fall detection built in. And if you do fall right now and you have fall detection turned on, it'll show you, hey, I think I detected a fall. Are you okay? Do you need emergency services called? But there could be a time where you aren't able to send that message. If you can't get your hand around to tap and say, yes, I do need that. Or if you don't recall that you can talk to the smartwatch and say, call emergency services. Or if you don't have a cellular Apple Watch and it's just a Wi-Fi one and you don't have a connection, then it can't call emergency services. So with this, it actually makes use of, and I didn't realize that Apple Watch's fall detection had an API. But it does have an API. And so because of that, if the Apple Watch detects a fall, then it will go ahead and work with the fall detection settings to be able to send that message and say, hey, we've detected a fall and here's what's going on. It is a little pricey. It's $54 a month, but the cool thing is it includes an Apple Watch cellular model with coverage across all of Canada. So for $54 a month, you get an Apple Watch with cellular, and you get the built-in service, which it's via a companion app to help you, to help someone be able to get in touch if they need to. So it says if users have an Apple Watch service, an Apple Watch Series 4 or later, they can get the companion service for just $30 a month. So it's $30 a month on its own, or $54 for the whole kit and caboodle. But yeah, it's almost, I wonder if it's almost more worth it to just spend the $54. And I mean, unless you do already have the Apple Watch, then, you just need what you need. But yeah. Interesting.
So I've had 3 falls with my Apple Watch. The first time I broke my ankle. So pretty serious. Yeah, it was good that it offered to call for me. The second time, I didn't need an ambulance. I did go to hospital by myself. I'd cut open my chin. falling flat out on the floor. And I got a bonus tetanus shot as well, which was just super exciting. And the third time I just tripped over a cable here at home and landed kind of hard. I was fine. Like an hour later, I managed to walk it off. But, I live alone. So for me, I'm not somebody who's particularly liable to fall. I am a bit clumsy at times. I'll acknowledge that. But, I don't have issues like my grandmother whose pelvis spontaneously shattered, which, is a thing that can happen with some people. So I personally am a big fan of fall detection in general. And I would say if you already have an Apple Watch and you don't have this feature turned on, and it won't automatically be turned on for probably a good chunk of the listeners here today, just because, you need to be in a certain demographic. It's targeted primarily by default at older people. But if you go ahead and turn that on, it might not save your life, but at the same time, it absolutely could. If I had been a foot further forward when I tripped and fell, I would have smacked my head on a pretty solid box. That could have given me concussion. Knowing that it would automatically call the emergency services for me is pretty useful. So, I'm a big fan of this. Actually, honestly, if you have an Apple Watch, just turn it on. You can always hit the cancel button on this. So I'm glad that it's being offered with a monitoring service. I know over here in the UK, our 999 is the correct number is over here. Service is really good. And they just handle everything that comes through and then send out, the correct people, depending on what the emergency is. And if they can't get a response, then they will still send somebody out. But I'm glad that TELUS, in Canada is doing something for these users with this because, it's a useful service to have. And I fully feel that anybody who lives alone should have something where if they need help, then they have a way of getting it really quickly when they need it, or if they're unable to call for it themselves. So I'm glad to see that this is going to be an option. It's not the cheapest, but I understand cell service in Canada is pretty expensive anyway.
Yes. I still with an Apple Watch included is kind of nice. $54 a month with an Apple Watch included. But on its own, $30 is a little more pricey. But yeah, as you said, cell service is kind of the thing there that makes the difference. All right. Let's talk about so we'll keep in on the topic of kind of health and Apple Watch stuff and wearables in general. To talk about, and I'm just reorganizing things just a hair here, a story that is based on a new study where, and it's important to understand that this study is kind of a very focused study. It was looking kind of at one hospital location or one medical services practice and looking at the cases within to determine that Apple Watch, Fitbit, and other smartwatch wearable people that have heart detection features, heart rate, and sometimes they can detect for atrial fibrillation depending on the device. Those devices have led to more medical procedures. Again, this is important. It's this one focused study. It is not kind of a wide study that has a wide breadth of information. So it's just one example. But in the sort of look at this and the analysis of this, it did not result in folks calling more because they had these devices. So let's talk about that a little bit. When the Apple Watch first announced the ability to detect or to do an ECG, to run a lead 1 ECG, electrocardiogram, there was a lot of concern about folks who said, hey, this is going to result in doctors getting so many calls. There are going to be people who don't have any kind of heart condition who are going to be calling and thinking that they do because they got a false positive. And shortly after ECG came to the Apple Watch, there was a study that was done that looked at if there was an increase in calls. And that study, which was also a pretty focused study, showed that the data suggested that that was the case, that there were more calls being made in relation to heart concerns and heart issues. This study, which has come out a lot later, says there weren't any more calls that were made, but people who needed emergency procedures, or I shouldn't say emergency because they're not always emergency, but palliative procedures. Ooh, listen to that alliteration. That number increased. So what that means is this study suggests that the wearables helped folks who did not know about a health issue that they had discover that health issue and then talk to their doctor. And then their doctor was able to work with them on what needed to happen, because the studies have all focused on, up to this point, have all focused on what the individuals are doing or have done when they get these notifications, and didn't so much talk about what the doctors are doing with that information. So that's what this study wanted to look at. So in this case, there were more people who got node ablation surgery, which I have a very personal relationship with this because the way that I found out I was gluten intolerant was because of because of learning about node ablation surgery. So I wound up in the hospital. This has been a long time ago now, with just the most racing heart rate I've ever experienced in my life. And I wasn't doing any activity. I was quite literally sitting in a chair at a theater watching whatever Star Wars film was out at the time. I don't remember. And it came out a couple of days before my birthday, or maybe one day before my birthday. And I was there with friends, and it wasn't even a super wild part of the movie or anything like that, but my heart was just do, 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 do. And it was so much so that I thought I didn't remember paying for the ticket for one of those fancy chairs that like rumbles you while you're watching. But I thought that maybe I accidentally sat in one or something. I kept checking my seat, like, am I sitting in the right seat? Because my whole chair is just rumbling. And then I realized it was my heart that was causing me to move back and forth. So I got up from the theater and went and got a glass of water and sort of sat out there for a little bit just in case it was the film that was getting me all worked up or something. And I came back in and told my friends, hey, I'm going to go home. I'm not feeling well. Went home, and over the course of like the next 2 hours, my heart rate did not decrease. It stayed at that raised rate. So I went to the emergency room, and they went from like, what's going on? And getting ready to have me get sat down in the waiting room to the alarms going off. And then this like automated voice saying, cardiac event in place or something like that. And so like, oh God, I'm having a cardiac event. And so anyway, they took me back and they did all the tests and everything. And they said, you've got, we think we can detect atrial fibrillation, but you definitely didn't have a heart attack. But we need you to wear one of these monitors that basically is running a constant ECG on you over the period of, I think 7 days or something. And it all ended up being a low blood sugar issue that was caused by my gluten intolerance. And so that was all A-okay. But one of the things that they said that I might have to do to get my heart rate back to where it needed to be was node ablation, which is where they go in and quite literally burn the tissue of your heart in order to scar it such that it returns your heart rate to normal. So while it is a relatively low risk procedure these days, you're still scarring your heart, which is kind of a big, choice to make. And so that can be kind of scary. But with this, folks who need to have that, who can't get help with their heart in other ways, like mine was just a diet change, then this is available to them. They're able to do that. And I think that's fantastic. So yeah, I'm curious to see. Oftentimes we don't get real insight about this until we can look at many different studies on this and get a comprehensive picture of the trend overall. Because now we've had one study that suggests one way and one study that suggests the other. And so as we continue to combine all of these studies together, we'll get more information about these wearables and what it results in terms of health.
Yeah. So from a few friends, I've heard of people who've been in the emergency room for one reason or another, and they've been having tests done, and they've checked their Apple Watch and compared it to the machines there, and found it to be accurate with things like the heart rate monitors and things like that. So I'm really glad that this data is proving to be useful for people. I know Reverb Mike reminded me there was somebody on the Tech Guy with Leo a couple of weeks ago, and the Apple Watch saved his life. It can do that with things. I've had it before where it said to me, hey, like your heart rate's kind of high. That's not a good thing. I was in the middle of moving. I was doing a lot of cardio, running up and down stairs with boxes. So I was expecting it to be high, but it was perhaps a little too high. And I did pause for a moment and let everybody else wrangle the boxes while I grabbed a glass of water and chilled out for a moment. And then I handled things via the lift for a bit, or elevator, for the people who don't speak British English. But it's really good to know that these devices basically are there supporting us with these things. I know medical care in every country works very differently, but over here, it's certainly useful to be able to say to your doctor, hey, I've been feeling like this, but I've also got this other data which I can give you, which, means that to me, this is normal or not normal or whatever. And I had a little health scare a couple of months ago. It turned out to be nothing bad. It was potentially appendicitis, which resolved itself. So it wasn't appendicitis because I would have had to have my appendix out. But, I was, running around and having like the information on my Apple Watch to say, hey, well, your ECG is normal. Obviously it's not the same as the ECG that I'll get in the hospital, but it's pretty darn accurate for a device I'm wearing almost 24/7. I take this off for an hour or so a day to charge it. It's really nice to have that data there and know, well, at the very least, my Apple Watch doesn't think there's anything wrong with me, or at least with my heart. So, I'm not going to tell the doctors there's nothing wrong with my heart. Don't look at that. But, knowing that can help you reduce your stress levels as well. If you're in a situation where you are feeling unwell, knowing what isn't the problem can be pretty nice.
Agreed 1000%. Again, it goes back to what I was saying before, where I feel it's a human right I feel that we should have as much information about our own bodies as we possibly can. And it's okay if that's not your thing, like you don't want that, but the opportunity to have as much data or as much information about our bodies as we can is good. And so improvements to that is important. So in the conversation around, we continue to talk about hearts here. There is another new study from it's been published in the Journal of the American Heart Association. So, kind of a big one, about magnetic interference on cardiac implantable electronic devices from Apple's iPhone MagSafe technology. So when Apple first announced its new MagSafe technology for phones, one of the things that it said was, hey, this could potentially interfere with internal and implant, I guess that's a little redundant, but implants that are used to control your heart rate or help your heart rate or what have you. And so they said, kind of keep those apart from one another if you have something like that. But there was not, official research, at least done independently, about this. And so now there has been some information about it, and it looked at whether there was interference. And so it says Apple's iPhone 12 Pro Max MagSafe technology can cause magnetic interference on CIEDs, which are cardiac implantable electronic devices, and has the potential to inhibit life-saving therapy. Magnet reversion mode in cardiac implantable electronic devices is triggered when an external magnet of adequate strength is applied over the device. In implantable cardioverter defibrillators, ICDs, the magnet reversion response is inhibition of tachytherapies, whereas in pacemakers, the response is asynchronous pacing. Modern-day cell phones are thought to have little to no risk of electromagnetic interference on CIEDs. Wireless charging, however, is a new technology that utilizes a charging base that generates a magnetic field and includes voltage in the receiver coil of a mobile device, allowing it to charge wirelessly. And the current the current generation is the thing that they're looking at. So yes, it does provide the ability to charge your device. But here is the thing, is that if you have an implantable device, they have to have some way of controlling that implantable device, and that doesn't involve having to open you up and get at it again. And so historically, we've used magnetic technology as a way to make adjustments to these devices. So you just have to be aware that just like the medical magnets, it is possible that the magnets that are built into your device could impact your implanted wearables, or implanted CIEDs and ICDs.
Yeah, I do have a question with this, which is how many men's shirts can actually hold an iPhone 12 Pro Max securely?
That is a good
because
question.
This is a pretty big, chunky device, and I think most men's shirts would come up to about here. That's a lot of iPhone that can just tip straight out of there onto the floor. So, I mean, personally, I keep my phone in a bag because women's clothing tends not to have pockets. But that's a discussion for another day. But, even if I do have, pockets in my clothes, it's going to be like my jeans or skirt or something that I'm keeping these things in. I kind of feel like a pocket in your shirt is maybe for a piece of paper or two, maybe your glasses. Certainly for nothing heavy. The material is not designed for that. And it just never looks like it would be secure. So yeah, hopefully if you've got one of these, you know that you need to look after yourself and make sure that you don't, put magnets right next to your chest. That would be a really bad thing. Please don't accidentally reprogram something that's helping you stay alive. That would be bad. But yeah, it's good and bad to know that this can happen. But I'm glad that somebody has done a study on it.
Agreed. All right, up next, Philips Hue gets an update, and we are pretty pumped about it. In fact, a lot of people are pretty pumped about it. All right. So Philips Hue, the app, has gotten an update that Signify, which are the makers of Philips Hue, say is it's been rebuilt from the ground up. It is fully redesigned to better control your devices, your lights, and it's really pretty, I think. So your home screen has your zones and the rooms set up so that you can turn on or off all of the lights in those spaces very easily, or dim or brighten those spaces. And then you can also control any of the lights that are within each of these rooms and easily kind of make adjustments to it. So the idea here is that up to this point, it was really kind of difficult to get access to the different bulbs and lights that you had in your home. And you would often like to set up a scene and then to change the color and then to make adjustments to this or that. You had to jump between all these different pages and it got kind of ridiculous. So now it's fewer taps to actually make adjustments. Tapping into a room gives you all of your lights down at the bottom so you can turn on and off those lights, and then the different scenes that you have set up at the top so you can quickly turn on those scenes. And then also one of the biggest complaints is that you had to go kind of deep into the app if you wanted to add lighting to your house. If you got new Hue lights, you'd have to go all the way into the settings app and then add light. And then it was different from where you made adjustments to which rooms they were in. The organization was kind of messy. It was clear that they sort of added on over time. And they finally said, look, we're redesigning this thing. And so this will make it much easier to add new lights. And Scooter X in the chat is giving it we'll say 2 thumbs up, or maybe just a let's go with a thumb up, unless Scooter X gets back to say more than 1 thumb up, but certainly 1, because it says the Hue app on my Pixel 2 XL and iPad updated today. The transition went well. I like the new app design. Signify itself is also replacing the feature that was called routines. It's calling it automations now, which is good because that fits into the scope of kind of what you expect from others. I think automations is the the key word there, is a popular word at this point. And it also has some built-in geolocation features where, depending on if someone's leaving the home or coming into the home, it can make adjustments to the lights. And ScooterX officially gives it 2 thumbs up. So there you go. So yeah, have you downloaded this? Do you have Hue lights?
Yes, I have Hue lights sitting behind me here. I'm not going to mess with them because otherwise, Twit's probably going to kill me because it'll mess with my lighting. But I find the Hue light bulbs themselves are really nice. I tend to interact with mine almost exclusively through HomeKit. All of my bulbs, pretty much, they're in overhead lights. Aside from one, they're all white. They're not even the white ambiance because I've had these things for ages, but until they die, I don't feel like I can really just buy new ones, which is really annoying. Bulbs, please die on me. But I'm really glad that the app has had an update. I recently got the gradient strip, the sync box, and 2 play bars for my TV. And oh my gosh, that's such an amazing experience having the lights sync with your TV if that's something you like. But oh my God, was it a pain to set them up? So I added things, and then I had to set up an entertainment area. I couldn't figure out where to set up the entertainment area. It took me like 20 minutes of digging. This is, one of the things that I do for a living. I should be able to find this stuff. I had to Google it to find it. That's how bad it was. And I can see, the app has been put in the update queue. Apparently my iPhone's not been on charge all day. So it's not yet installed the update automatically, and it's still downloading it at the moment. My internet's a bit slow. But I'm really looking forward to the improvements here because I rarely need to use the Hue app itself, but I prefer it to be a nice experience when I use an app. Nanoleaf and so on have got nice apps, so it's good to see that Hue has got a nice update for us here, and it really does look much better and prettier as well. And I know that sounds silly, but if you're the only person who does smart tech in your home, you don't really care about the app being pretty. If you have a family member who shares that with you, then it needs to be pretty for that other person acceptance factor. So it's good to see that they are keeping that in mind as they do this.
Pretty and usable, as opposed to having all these little secrets as ways to understand what you're supposed to do. I think that makes all the difference. All right, up next, this is really exciting, potentially, unless it was just a typo. Apple, of course, has job listings all the time for new folks to come and join the club and work there. But there was a job listing that went out ahead of WWDC, which is this coming week. And by the way, Leo and I will be covering the event live on Monday. So folks can tune in to twit.tv/live ahead of the event if they want to hear our coverage and commentary before the show begins. Before the show begins, while the show is going on, and a little bit afterward as well. But with that, this WWDC is traditionally where Apple announces new software and has in the past announced whole new operating systems or renames of operating systems. And the job listing made mention of something called HomeOS. So right now, officially, we have iOS, iPadOS, tvOS, HomePodOS, and watchOS. I don't know if I said that one. And so here's the thing. It could be that this is just HomePodOS and a person just did not type it out correctly, that they had shortened it in their mind to HomeOS. But the thought here is that maybe Apple will rename HomePodOS to HomeOS as it continues to make devices that are for the smart home. Where that might lead us, I don't know yet. We don't know yet. But that could be potentially exciting as Apple works on improving HomeKit and the HomePod now that the HomePod and the Apple TV both have Thread routers built into them, then it can all kind of be part of that. As ScooterX in the chat points out, well, that's the thing. tvOS is the one I think I forgot to mention. So right now, Apple TV runs tvOS, and the HomePod runs HomePodOS. But HomePodOS is technically just a subset of it's either a subset of iOS or a subset of tvOS, and now I can't recall.
I think it's a subset of iOS because it can run shortcuts, which
right.
tvOS at this moment in time cannot do. But it can do things as part of being a home hub. It's one of those very strange things where the TV itself, I think only the newest Apple TV, I believe, can actually run the shortcuts which don't require user input in the background. I don't know. I have 4 HomePods or 2 HomePods, 2 HomePod minis, and an Apple TV, so I don't actually know what's running the device, but it always seems like my primary home hub is one of the HomePods.
So with all that information, ScooterX suggests that maybe Apple TV and HomePod could get grouped under HomeOS. I wouldn't be surprised if we see I think tvOS could kind of go away and you just kind of put all of the devices meant for the home under one scope. But I do think that there's going to be more of a play for smart technology in the home. So what that means, Apple released a feature that has to do with the lighting in your home, where lights that opt into this, they can change color, temperature, and brightness depending on the time of day. And as you make adjustments to them, then they shift in color, temperature, and brightness. And so smarter features like that coming to the home as these automations take even more sort of root in Apple's smart home system. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm looking forward to this.
Me too. The next thing, speaking of smart home stuff, is Nanoleaf held an event today. And it was interesting. At Nanoleaf's last event, they announced the Essential line, which included light strips and light bulbs that were Wi-Fi connected devices that also featured Thread. They were Thread-supported devices. And Thread, we've talked a lot about on Smart Tech today, so I'm not going to rehash it here. But those ones supported Thread. At the time, Nanoleaf said that Thread would eventually be coming to its other devices, but we weren't sure when that was going to happen. And then at the end of the video where they had their event, they teased something coming soon that they had not, that they weren't ready to announce, and now they are ready to announce it. They announced it today, and it's some new lighting panels that I would say blend in more as art. They look like wood. They're like wood panels, and they're in that familiar hexagon shape. And so on your wall, it looks like you have these kind of beautiful stark wood panels, but then you can turn them on and they light up just like the Nanoleaf panels that you're used to, be they hexagons or some other design. I believe these are called Nanoleaf Elements. And so you've got the Nanoleaf Elements, the Nanoleaf Shapes, and the Nanoleaf Essentials line. And along with this announcement of these new wood panel looking plugs or wood panel looking lights, they also said that Thread support would be coming very soon to the controllers. So that includes, the controller for the Nanoleaf Shapes, the controller for this new Nanoleaf Elements, and the controller for the Nanoleaf Canvas. So I am super excited about that because it is a Thread border router, which is the technology that you need in order to create a Thread network in your home. So they can serve as individual sort of points of contact between your internet connection and your local area network, and then all of the devices that support Thread that communicate with one another. So as soon as this is turned on, then my HomePod Mini can start communicating with my Nanoleaf panel, and they together can kind of reach out and form a whole Thread network throughout my home. So very cool.
Yes. I really love these. It's kind of a shame that they only do white. So they do warm white, cool white lights, but at the same time, they're also panels of wood, which are super pretty. So I have the original triangles, the very original shapes that Nanoleaf had. Mine have a rhythm module. It's got an aux port built into it, which is, something that the newer ones don't have. The shapes and so on don't have an aux port on the rhythm panel. But I really like these. I've mounted mine in a frame, which means that they look much more like a piece of art. With this, you could mount them on your wall, and it does look much more like art than white panels stuck to your wall, which looks a little odd at times. I have to say, it certainly did in my old apartment where they were stuck straight to the walls. I find it interesting that these are touch sensitive. I kind of feel like they're going to get grubby if you keep touching them, especially if you have small children with peanut butter on their fingers. That's just going to be something you're going to have to clean all the time. But I really like these. I'm really glad that they have made these even more arty. The Nanoleaf stuff has never been super cheap, but it's always been super pretty. And I'm really glad that they're leaning into, the aesthetics there.
Agreed. Very cool. And Nanoleaf is constantly creating new things. And this is part of their Elements series. The Shapes series has triangles, both small and sort of regular sized triangles. And all of the Shapes series panels fit together. So you can create kind of a custom wall design using the different shapes that are available there. All right. Let's talk about, I know, Eufy just announced a new set of cameras. These are the Solo Cam cameras, and these are wireless, rechargeable cameras that you can use to set up a set of security cameras in your home. What's nice is that along with offering the ability to set up a security camera system in your home without having to run a bunch of wires, is that Eufy lets you use a local kind of hub or bridge, whatever you want to call it, that will let you locally save the video footage that you use with these Eufy devices. So with it, you do get to have, you don't have to worry about paying a bunch of extra money to get a bunch of extra storage in the cloud, or have that. And then also, there's also the fact that Eufy had a data breach, which in the end affected 768. I think it was more than 700, less than 800 customers. I'll say that. So if you're kind of worried about storing your video footage in Eufy's cloud, this could be kind of a bit of a piece for you to have to use the cameras kind of locally. So yeah, I just wanted to mention these because Eufy has a huge lineup of different security cameras that you can purchase, and the Solo Cam are only the latest that are available.
Yeah, I like that they've got one now with a solar panel mounted on top, and one that's got like a ring light essentially around the lens, which is a really bright LED. Those are all great. I just bought my parents a Eufy camera because they wanted to be able to see what the hedgehog was up to in the back garden at night. At least that's what they said. So I'm assuming that they're watching the hedgehog at night because that's when they seem to turn it on. But it's their stuff's pretty good. I particularly like at least the older outdoor cameras connect with the base station on site, so you can store the data there. And if you add the base station to the home app, then they do support HomeKit Secure Video. I don't know if the new ones do yet. I believe that's not been announced that they do, but at the very least, the older ones certainly do. And the indoor cameras, which I have a couple of, including one over there to monitor my 3D printer, they work really well with HomeKit Secure Video. I'm really pleased with them. So it's nice to see that they're coming out with more stuff. I personally have had a great experience with my Eufy products, so I'm hoping that continues.
Absolutely. And I think before we round things out with our picks of the week, I've got one last story here that is just it was funny and fun, and it is from Kellogg's. And so before you reveal the page, Kevin, I'll sort of set the stage. If you've ever been to a restaurant or a dining hall, that has one of those Coca-Cola machines where you can walk up to it, you put your drink in the middle, and you hit a button to put in some ice. And then from there, you can tap on the screen to choose the beverage that you want. And then you can tap on it even more to add flavor shots. So you could have like a vanilla root beer or a Diet Coke with lime, or half Dr. Pepper, half, I don't know, Sprite. And then it's called the Coca-Cola Freestyle, which basically just lets you make any drink that you want. Let's take that idea and make it breakfast. That is what Kellogg's is doing. Kellogg's is partnering with the company called Robotic, which it's interesting. We talked about it on this show. Robotic was purchased or was acquired by DoorDash, and so it's now a division of DoorDash. But Robotic makes these kinds of machines, does automated food service type stuff. And so they have made the Kellogg's Bowl Bot, which is going to be used in dining halls, like at colleges. And what it lets you do is create a breakfast out of cereal. So you choose your cereal, and then you can add toppings to it. So you can have, some Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, and I want to put some strawberries on there. And I'd also like a dash of cinnamon. I don't know if exactly those things will work, but they do talk about fresh fruits and nuts that you can add on top of them. And it'll make a custom bowl of cereal for you. And then, of course, as I did when I was a kid, I would pull out like all 6 boxes of cereal that mom had bought, and then a little of this, a little of that, a little of that, a little of that, and, have a bowl of cereal that's got all this stuff in it. So you'll be able to make your cereal bowl with the Kellogg's Bowl Bot. This is fun. It's fun. I like it.
Yeah, I might have to enroll myself at Florida State University or the University of Wisconsin-Madison, because that's apparently where it's going. I want one of these in my kitchen. If they can condense it down into a much smaller size, then I will take that. I can have a couple of jars of different cereal there. That'll work for me. I'd love it.
Yeah, it says there are 22 different ingredient options, including milk or yogurt as a base. So you can have like a yogurt and then throw some granola on top of that, and then have some banana chips. It says, let's see, like any pizza parlor offering a respectable list of toppings, the Bowl Bot also offers a menu of several predetermined mixes for those who can't make up their minds. Get this. About Last Night, as the mix is called, mixes Frosted Flakes, Fruit Loops, and Crave cereals with chocolate drops, banana chips, and espresso syrup. A true breakfast of champions. So you can imagine that will help you with your hangover, with the potassium in there and the higher protein level. It's got quite a bit of sugar, so be careful, but that's interesting. And then there's the Hawaii 5-0, which blends frosted mini wheats and Bare Naked Fit triple berry granola with coconut, mango, and pineapple. Yum! That sounds amazing. I want to make that just in my own home. I want a cereal bot.
Yeah, my only quibble is it's $3 for a regular bowl of cereal, and it's $6.50 for a complete, fully decked About Last Night, or probably the Hawaii 5-0. It's kind of a shame. I may have to just stick to my multiple boxes and scooping stuff out approach. Oh well.
Yeah, I am my own cereal bot. All right, up next, our picks of the week. And now it's time for our picks of the week. Rosemary Orchard, what item or app or service or whatever did you pick this week?
Well, some people who are watching the show and are eagle-eyed might have spotted that my bookcase at the start of the show was blue, and it's now pink. Or actually, no, it's white or orange. And of course, I can go blue, and I can pick any color under the rainbow and just cycle through all of them. And I'm doing this with a Meross light strip. So the Meross light strip is $50, but it is a 32-foot light strip for $50, and it's nearly always on sale. So at the moment, it's $10 off on Amazon. It goes on sale. You can frequently end up stacking those coupons on the sale. So keep an eye out for great prices. But Meross products, I've found in my experience, are pretty good. I've helped a friend get set up with a couple of the plugs because they weren't going to, go all in on home automation. So buying them something like a tread-free hub or something was not going to be a good start. But so these are Wi-Fi connected devices, but they're really solid. And, I think I paid less than $30 actually for the light strip that's connected here right now because it was on sale. And I have great accent lighting in my office, but it's incredibly bright. I have another one of these stuck to the underside of my bed. When I get out of bed in the middle of the night, it turns that light strip on red so I can see to get out of my bedroom.
How does it know to turn it on?
Because I have teeny tiny little motion sensors on the floor by my bed.
Nice.
And it knows when there's a nighttime mode. Ignore the main motion sensor. I set this up. I'm using Homebridge dummy switches for people who are looking for a little bit more detail there. So I'm running an external piece of software to give myself some fake switches inside of HomeKit, which knows that it's asleep. So then it turns this light strip on red. But if I walk in there in the day and I'm poking around under the bed, or, it notices motion, it turns those on a nice bright color. So I'm going to be able to see to get stuff out. And if there are spiders there, I can avoid the spiders and get the vacuum cleaner for them, get rid of them. But it's great. I love it. It's extremely affordable for how much length you get. Did I mention it's 32.8 feet long? It's split into two 15-foot strips. But you can connect those together end to end, or you can connect them both going outwards from the plug. I really like it. It's great. It works with HomeKit. It works with ALEXA. It works with the Google systems. It works with all the stuff. I'm really impressed with it. I love it.
I don't know if you're watching.
I am.
So for anybody out there who's not watching, who's just listening, I also have this Meross light strip. I'm waiting to get. I ordered some of the connectors so that I can cut it and connect it exactly how I want, so that it can curve corners in my cabinetry. But there's so much light strip here. And it's ridiculous that these are always on sale. And they're HomeKit enabled, which I love.
Yes. And I should mention, I'm only using half the light strip on my bookcase here behind me. I have the other half in the box. I could connect that to one of the others that I've got somewhere else. And Mike, a little tip for you. You've ordered those connectors. I've done some pretty tight corners here, and I haven't used any connectors. It's working fine.
Really?
So.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, if it bends that easily, that I might have to send those back.
It's pretty sticky on the back as well. So I was really impressed with the adhesion. It's not done so great on the underside of my bed, but that's kind of not super well finished wood. So it's not got as much to stick to there. But I mean, it's still there and still working, and it's great. I really love it. So 10 out of 10 on the Meross light strip.
Awesome. My mention, it's actually something they have been a sponsor on Twit before. So I just want to say that. But I think that these are super cool on their own. Also, recently, I was on Twitter, and Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, was in his office doing something. I don't remember what it was. And someone had retweeted it, and they were talking about the books on the bookshelf, saying that Justin Trudeau, they were surprised that he was such a nerd because he's into sci-fi and fantasy and stuff. And I, zoomed in to look at the books, and in doing so, I happened to catch that on his desk was resting a pair of Aftershokz headphones. These are the wireless Bluetooth headphones that you can use with bone conduction, meaning that they do not cover or go into your ears. And there are a couple of reasons why this is great. Working from home and being on calls all day, having something in your ears constantly can be painful over time. Having something over your ears can be painful and or get really warm after a while. It's like you're wearing earmuffs. And so these Aftershokz, which go sort of around your ear and rest on your jawbone, you can still hear just fine, but you don't feel as trapped, as sort of isolated from the world if you're not wanting to be isolated from the world. And it can be cooler and more comfortable for you as well. Sometimes it's even worth just sort of shifting between the two. So conference calls I was thinking about with people working from home, but then also returning to the office, as we soon will be doing. You may be looking for a way to continue to have that experience of like listening to the music that you listen to while you're at home, or listening to a podcast or what have you, but also being available should someone need to come up to you and say, hey, and you don't want to have to go through the trouble of taking off your headphones or whatever, unless you're using that as a tactic to say, leave me alone. I totally understand. But then that's another way that these open ear music listening devices can be helpful. They were kind of designed for runners and for people who go outside and need to be able to hear around them, bikers and things like that, so they could still listen to what they wanted to listen to, but also be aware of their surroundings. So they're great for that. But I use them just as a way to kind of give myself some relief from having to wear something over my ears or in my ears. And I just noticed on Amazon, so the one that I included in the link is sort of the AfterShokz headphones. They're available for $155. They have Bluetooth multi-point pairing, and they have a certain level of water resistance. But AfterShokz recently has come out with a version that has a boom mic on it. So the microphone, a headset essentially, has a microphone that extends out from the AfterShokz and will let you communicate with folks. So yeah, there it is, the OpenComm. So these do have a microphone built into them, the ones that I have, but it is, of course, not going to capture audio as well. It's just a little microphone on there, and it's all the way back by your jawbone. So it's not going to capture audio from you as well. But that, with that extended microphone headset, you would be able to. So yeah, if you're looking for an open ear headset for doing calls and things like that, you might check out the AfterShokz OpenComm. For me, just the AfterShokz on their own was my choice for sure. And yeah, you get that bone conduction technology that puts the sound into your ears. Pretty cool device. And despite them no longer being a sponsor on the network, I wanted to give them another shout out because they've been getting me through these trying times. So yeah, you can find them on Amazon, $155, and that may seem pricey, but bone conduction technology is, you can look around for some bone conduction technology, and a lot of it sounds like crap, but these do not sound like crap. I think AfterShokz kind of has the market almost on actually good sounding and true sounding bone conduction headphones. They're pretty impressive.
And it means that if you're back in the office and you're not using your headphones as a way to signal to people that they should go away, then you're also aware of people sneaking up on you. Because I know that was definitely a problem I had sometimes in the office with big noise canceling headphones. I'd be sitting there typing away, getting on with something, and then somebody would just appear in my field of view, and you jump. It's scary. You end up with water everywhere because you knock your glass over or whatever. And it's not great. So knowing that people are sneaking up on you, or if you're working from home, being able to hear the post person and other delivery people can be nice and helpful as well. Or, the dog that's barking outside. It's a nice reminder that there's a world and we're part of it.
Exactly. All right, folks, that brings us to the end of another episode of Smart Tech Today. If you have questions you would like to have answered for this show, you can send them to stt@twit.tv. We keep it pretty simple, stt@twit.tv. Thanks to those of you who tuned in live. You can tune in live every Thursday it's typically 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. And you just go to twit.tv/live to watch on Twitch or YouTube or wherever. And of course, the best way to make sure you're caught up with the show on your own time is by subscribing You could just head to twit.tv/STT and you can click to subscribe to audio or click to subscribe to video. And we're on so many different services: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, etc., etc. Just click in there and subscribe in the service of your choice. If you'd like all of our shows ad-free, then you should check out Club Twit. Club Twit is our newly announced service for folks. $7 a month gets you every Twit show with no ads, an exclusive Twit Plus bonus feed with extra content, and a members-only Discord channel. Yes, Discord server. You get access to the Discord server where you can hang out with the hosts and other fellow Club Twit members. It's really a lot of fun in there. There's a lot going on. And for example, on Windows Weekly, it's quickly becoming a theme where the folks in the audience ask Mary Jo Foley and Paul Thurrott questions directly from the Club Twit Discord. So if you'd like to be a part of that fun, then Club Twit is where you want to go. Twit.tv/Club Twit. $7 a month. And we appreciate those of you who have subscribed. We do. We thank you so much. And for those of you who are considering it, thank you too. All right, Rosemary Orchard, if folks want to follow you online and check out all the great work you're doing, where do they go to do that?
Well, the first place would be right here on Twit on iOS Today with you and me, which records on Fridays usually. So, of course, if you want more of me and Micah together, you should check out iOS Today. For all the rest of my stuff, just head to rosemaryorchard.com, which has links to all the things that I do, some books I've written, podcasts I'm on, and of course, you can find me on micro.blog and Twitter with the username Rosemary Orchard as well. Micah, awesome. What about you?
For me, I am at Micah Sargent on practically as many social media networks as I can be. And then you can also just head to chihuahua.coffee, chihuahua.coffee. Yes, where I've got links to my most active places. So that's an easy way to find me and the work that I do. All right, Rosemary Orchard, this is the part where we say good afternoon to all of our smart assistants. Good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon to all of my smart assistants who I think are sleeping, so I'm going to leave them alone just because I don't want to wake everything up.
Oh, it's like good night for you, isn't it? Or is it good morning?
It is, yeah. It's just about midnight.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we got to get you out of here. Thank you, Rosemary Orchard, for joining us today. We do appreciate it. No problem. I will see you tomorrow.
Yes. I will be back tomorrow, everybody. So have a lovely evening or rest of your day, and goodbye.
You may have heard about this story, but are you familiar with the story behind the story? Well, every week on Tech News Weekly, my co-host Micah Sargent and I, Jason Howell, speak to the people who are making and breaking the biggest tech news of the week. We're talking with journalists, we're talking with industry veterans, often we're talking with the people who are responsible for the story. Don't miss Tech News Weekly at twit.tv.